So, yes, how do brakes work? Well, brakes are fundamental. You take a dynamo or a wheel, like this, and you want to make it stop. Well, how do you do that? You put your foot down, right? That's what happens when you're in a bicycle. When you're 3 years old or 4 years old, your bike probably doesn't have a handlebar to stop. Or maybe you don't want to use the handlebar and you just find it's easier to just put your foot down and stop. But, well, if you're going 40, 50 miles an hour and you put your foot down, well, that foot is no longer going to exist. So, in 1900s, or the early days of automobiles, when automobiles started exceeding 10 miles an hour, this guy just put wood on a tire. He put wood on a tire to stop the car. Before that, when the cars were going less than 10 miles an hour, everyone just put their foot down. But since 10 miles an hour was kind of like the limit, he put a literal piece of wood there. This was him with his first car. It was in 1900, so it's very low picture quality. Then this guy called William Maybach put, let's just say it's kind of like a spring. When you push the pedal down, the spring expands inside the tire, and the tire stops. Unlike the braking system from the outside, this is from the inside, so it stops wear and tear from the wheel. This is kind of how it worked. There was a wire here, and it goes to this little rod, which pulls this little thing here, and it makes it expand. But the problem was that these wires were really unreliable, and sometimes when you made a sudden stop, they would sometimes either A, die off and just break like this, or B, if you were rich and were able to pay thousands of dollars for a really good wire, they were not reliable since sometimes they won't even work. So this is how it kind of worked. Like I explained, levers pulled, the wire, blah blah blah. So before 1950, everyone was just using the wheel, and then later on in the 1920s, after cars started going 30, 40 miles an hour, they put the same system, not in just one wheel, but all four wheels, and connected it to this little main place, or the steering wheel. And they connected it so the wires were all aligned. But the problem was that sometimes when you put too much power or force on the left wheel, like if you put too much force in the left wheel, sometimes the right wheel won't get the same amount of braking power, since these strings were unreliable and sometimes they didn't work as you planned. So sometimes your car will go right, sometimes you go left. So that's why most people, or at least rich ones, had like a chauffeur to get them out around their day, because they don't want this happening. They don't want their wives to break. So to make cars 16-year-old and skinnier for everyone. So yeah, those types of people couldn't. So if you're 400 pounds and very weak, you couldn't drive it. So yeah, the chauffeur. Then they invented the master cylinder. Basically, instead of the pulley system or those rods, this had fluid going through each wheel, and the fluid would be compressed, or not really compressed, just pushed to stop the wheel from accelerating. So that means that every car had a little bit of liquid coming out the back. Like maybe you've seen in like 1980s cars, when you brake, there's like water coming out. That was the same thing. And you had to keep refilling your car with water or any type of liquid, or else it wouldn't break. So yeah, nowadays you can brake with a dynamo, with fins, which it gets the air inside, rotors, which gets the air from the outside, or just a gap in the middle, like most budget-friendly cars nowadays. There's one brakes and new brakes. So the difference between this is that sometimes your car's going to make a squeaky noise. That's because the pad is gone. The pad is completely worn out. So, and sometimes, kind of like that on the left. And on the right, the pad is still there. So yeah, that's the difference between this and that. Thank you for watching.